just so our audience knows. Carol was born in Bedford, Virginia, one of 12 kids. Grew up in a very poor house, living in a shack without running water, sharing 2 beds with her 11 siblings, did not finish high school, dropped out in 9th grade, earned a GED, worked as a cashier at McDonald's. Carol actually worked at McDonald's as a door-to-door salesperson and assistant at a retirement facility. Now holds 5 degrees, including a PhD from the University of North Carolina, a master's from Yale, got tenure as an associate professor of politics and public policy at Princeton, and also taught at Vanderbilt, as I mentioned. So, I mean, you have worked your way up from nothing. That doesn't get rewarded by these. They don't look at you and say it's wonderful. Now, if you had somehow managed to turn out liberal, it might. They might want to celebrate that, rags to riches story. But no, you questioned the one thing you really can't question. You mentioned Roland Fryer, race. A black person who's heterodox on these racial issues, beloved by the left, makes you public enemy number 1. I mean, I just think that the racism that I know you've had to endure from leftists, right? Who it's like, I don't know what the term is for a woman, but it's like an Uncle Tom. That's what they call people like Roland and Clarence Thomas, is absolutely shocking.
It's true. And they call the women Aunt Jane. And the progressives were always uncomfortable with me. And also many of the black people that I worked alongside, they would tell me, you don't need to tell people where you came from. And there seemed to be a lot of embarrassment that somehow I had slipped through the cracks and entered those places. And wow. I am a person of faith, and I believe that God somehow opened those doors. I was able to get in there and get credentialed and to see exactly what takes place behind the closed doors. And there's a lot of racism, and much of it came from all of it came from the white progressives. And I can tell you that my attitudes about race has always been that, I've never been I wasn't in the Black Student Union. I was in the honor societies. And my mentors, and many of them were older white men, and people, no one encouraged me to feel like I was handicapped because I was Black, I'm a woman, I have children, I come from poverty. I had to get to graduate school and start studying theories of oppression to learn that because I was Black and a woman and with a family, that I wasn't supposed to have been able to do the things I had already done. And it was like poison. And I think that we poison young people's minds today, that all of that diversity, equity, and inclusion and what affirmative action became, all of that has held Black people back. Because in my day, I would say I benefited from the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, an environment that focused on non-discrimination, outreach, and equal opportunity. And I had equal opportunity to get into places. I was recognized because I defied the stereotypes, but I could have failed anywhere along the way. There was no equity in my day.
That comes through so clearly in our earlier episode together, where I'll give the audience the number, where we went through it all. And it's an amazing success story. I do have to ask you, I mentioned you last week because we were having this discussion about these absurd panels that are happening over on CNN and the woe is me attitude of these very successful Black women who are running the discussion in Abby Phillips' case and the panelist she has still acting like it's 1954 and we've made no progress and we haven't had the civil rights. Here's this is a different cut from the one we ran last week, but here's a sample.
Got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table,
Fine
right?
by me.
And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI. I have faced this. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes, to my counterparts. You believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualification.
Black women are one of the most educated demographics in this country and one of the least paid. Why would that make any sense?
Why would that make any sense? And don't talk to me about the judges you stand before. Talk to
Why?
me about the theory.
Hold on.
Talk to me about the
But
world
it also-
in which we live in and
Let's
the
look
system
at the
that
United
we
States
live in.
Supreme Court. How can you say we're not going to look at that from the top to the bottom? And I'm talking about the legal
New
system.
York is a more
that I live in.
progressive. And we
All
just
right.
got a black woman.
Hold up. Let me.
We just got a black woman on
Okay,
the
but you had a
board.
black man from
You brought
the
up
70s.
You brought up the Supreme
or
Court.
the 60s.
One.
Did you know, Arthur, that there are
Hold
So
on.
why is it so hard to understand why something like diversity, equity, inclusion needs to be a part of what we do in a system that never even acknowledged a group of people, never saw us as a human commodity, just literally never noticed who we were. And now here we are years later asking for some simple rights, some simple civilities. She's asking to be paid like you get paid. She's asking to be acknowledged like you get acknowledged. And she knows that that is not the case because she is a black woman.
Your thoughts on it, Carol?
What an interesting thing about, all these degrees that she has. We know that colleges and universities are not equal. We also know that they have lowered the standards so much, especially at even the Ivy League, that once you get your foot in the door, they pass you along. It's almost impossible to fail. And so a person having a lot of degrees, that tells me nothing about their knowledge base or their work ethic. And I think the work ethic is key. And just having a degree and showing up, that doesn't mean anything. Do you show up? How hard do you work? Those women that were featured, they seem to be doing pretty well.
Absolutely. And yet still want us to be, Abby, there's no question Abby Phillip makes millions of dollars, and she still wants us to feel sorry for her because somehow there's an invisible ceiling she keeps bumping up against. She has a primetime show. Like, I don't know what she's bitching about. And this other woman, I have no idea what her work ethic is. Good point. I don't know how smart she is just because she has these degrees. Right. And I don't know whether she's outshining her competitors either. It's like, maybe you're great, but you're not as great as your colleagues. It automatically has to be gender and race.
Well, I can tell you, Megyn, I identify more with you just because we are two women that had to reinvent ourselves because we ran up against the forces that be, and we did so successfully. Most of the liberals don't have to worry about that.
That's exactly right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I feel very much the same, Carol. And I'm thrilled that you're going public with this story about Claudine Gay, because honestly, she should have called you long ago to apologize at the bare minimum she could do. We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point, as the largest generation is hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and rising cost of living, and we could have a very big problem on our hands. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it does not cost you a cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold and a copy of The Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings. Text my initials MK to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.